Welcome to Global Tapestry Today, a one-off podcast where I, your host Casey, tell you about medieval Europe. Today I'm going to talk about Margery Kempe, feudalism, Christianity, and a little bit about the Crusades. So, first off, Margery Kempe was a Christian mystic born in the late 1300s. She was part of the urban elite, or upper middle class. In her 20s, she married John Kempe, a chancellor and archbishop, and ended up having 14 children with him. Around this time, she also started having intense spiritual visions, which included seeing the devil and speaking to Christ. Margery decided to follow her religious calling and devote her entire life to Christianity. She was too old to become a virginal young nun and too young and married to join a convent as an older widow, so she created her own path. She traveled to various pilgrimage sites, prayed for her fellow Christians, and was known for being able to determine if someone could be saved or damned to hell. She also developed a reputation for being a public nuisance, as she would have loud, disruptive crying bouts whenever she thought about Jesus, which was a lot. She also ended up being prosecuted for multiple reasons, including but not limited to imitating a nun and intercession, which is praying on behalf of others, an action reserved only for male priests. Despite being a nut, Margery Kempe was important because she wrote the first English autobiography. Not only was she a literary pioneer, her biography gives perspective on the day-to-day life of a woman in medieval Europe, as well as an interesting introspection into her struggle trying to balance her devout, often disruptive religious life and her life on earth. However, Margery's narrative was that of an upper-class woman, so she only had that point of view. During her time, feudalism was still prevalent in Europe. Feudalism, defined by rigid social classes, did not allow for a lot of wiggle room. The hierarchy consisted of serfs and peasants at the bottom, then knights, who protected the peasants and provided military service and were vassals to the nobles. The noble lords and holy men were vassals to the king at the very top. A vassal is someone who holds land on tenure on the condition of homage and alliance. For example, a knight would become a vassal to a noble, agreeing to protect and serve them in return for food and land. As it was for Margery, the class one was born into was the class that they stayed in. Another thing that affected daily life in her time was Christianity. Unlike today, where secularism is common, the church was all-encompassing. It became dominant after the fall of Rome and was the only recognized religion in Europe. It was extremely influential to the government and social systems, as the Catholic Church, the main one, was allowed a hefty budget by the state. The Pope could deliver orders to even the king, making him an extremely powerful and influential figure. One example of this power was starting the Crusades. The Crusades were military campaigns meant to defend and expand Christianity. Other than spreading Christianity, they also fostered trade and cultural diffusion. That's all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in.